So today is Transgender Day of Visibility, and I'm going to use this opportunity to talk about strategic voting. Why am I going to do that? Because sadly, Canada, Pierre Poilievre, he's a peeping Tom. Welcome to Orange Wave, the series discussing progressive news, culture, and all things related to the NDP. I am your host, Will Adams, and that image used in the cold open bit is actually very much so seated in truth. Let me elaborate a bit. Pierre Poilievre made the ridiculous assertion that transgender women are men and shouldn't be allowed to use restrooms. And yes, I'm being serious. That is point blank what he said.
Female spaces should be exclusively for females. Not for biological males. You ask if I introduce legislation on that. A lot of the spaces you described are provincially and municipally controlled. So it is unclear what federal legislation what reach federal legislation would have to change them. But obviously, female sports, female change rooms, female bathrooms should be for females, not for biological males.
That was Pierre Poilievre being a transphobic and self-righteous jackass. And no, this is not the episode where I meticulously break down exactly why for 5 minutes. That's coming in the next episode, which is almost done. I couldn't finish it in time for today, so you get this episode instead because it still gives me a chance to talk about these two topics in a more bite-sized, quick manner. I'll simplify it here. Pierre Poilievre in this press conference was othering gender-diverse Canadians. Othering can be defined in many ways, but the gist of it is he was stereotyping. I use the term othering in this case because Poilievre was putting gender-diverse Canadians, particularly transgender women, into an outgroup. The way Poilievre achieved this was by saying that transgender women are men. The usage of the term biological male is one that they do strategically. It's meant to put the image of a manly-looking dude using the woman's washroom and potentially harming women into your head. If Poilievre said transgender women don't belong in female spaces instead of saying that biological men don't belong in female spaces, then someone who may not be entirely informed on the issue is more likely to object to it because saying that is plainly exclusionary. It's like saying that black women don't belong in women's spaces, or blonde women, or any other descriptor of kinds of women. But if he uses a term like biological men, he makes it more likely to indoctrinate an ignorant person who is just browsing social media one day. It is very much a narrative in all meanings of the word, and it's an untrue one. This narrative not only sexualizes transgender women into this weird fetish fantasy caricature that the radical right made up themselves, but it also treats cisgender women as fragile creatures who can't defend themselves and need to be talked over at every given turn. Which, at that point, it's not only transphobic, but it's also just plainly sexist. When Conservative MPs were asked what their thoughts on Pierre Poilievre's assertions were, I guess the Conservative Party has a gag order or something from Poilievre because they gave answers ranging anywhere from disinterested to mild endorsement. Yeah, if you're a member of the LGBTQ community, or this is an issue that you find important, this is not a party you should be voting for. And you know what? That got me thinking in general a lot about the next election in 2025. We've had elections like this in the past. The election where Doug Ford was voted in as Premier of Ontario, that was a strictly not Kathleen Wynne election, and nothing else. When Justin Trudeau was running for the first time in 2015 as leader of the Liberal Party, that was a not Stephen Harper election. And 2025 is looking to be a not Trudeau election. Or, depending on how you look at it, a not Poilievre election. Now, it definitely goes without saying that I do not agree at all with strategic voting. I think it's stupid, and I think it shows a lack of integrity. Most people who engage in strategic voting do so that way they can have an excuse not to educate themselves. And that right there is the exact reason why both Justin Trudeau and Pierre Poilievre will not give true electoral reform to Canadians. Because while dealing with the real issues will put bread on the table for regular Canadians, working class Canadians, and the majority of the country, actually getting results for the Canadian people does not pay for a politician's pension, nor does it attract as many people to buy party memberships and fundraisers. And this whole thing reminded me of an article I read, one that I thought was interesting. According to CTV News, most Canadians who plan on voting for the Liberal Party are more motivated to stop the Conservatives from winning the election rather than endorsing the party's vision and leader. Meanwhile, the opposite is true for most Conservative supporters. The non-profit Angus Reid Institute conducted an online survey from January 16th and 17th among a representative randomized sample of 1,620 Canadian adults. The margin of error is +/-2 percentage points 19 times out of 20. The survey was self-commissioned and paid for by the Institute. While there certainly is a significant amount of distaste for Trudeau among the Canadian public, that does not appear to be the strongest motivating factor for those who intend to vote for the Conservative Party, according to the Angus Reid report. Instead, 3 in 5 Conservative supporters said they are more likely to vote because they back Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre and the party's vision rather than wanting to prevent another term of government led by Justin Trudeau. These voters make up a quarter of the electorate overall. Meanwhile, 3 in 5 Liberal supporters said they are more motivated to prevent a Conservative government rather than support Trudeau and Liberal policies. This means just 9% of the Canadian electorate is passionate about and inspired by the prospect of voting Liberal. At face value, those who read this CTV article probably looked at it, they scratched their head a bit, and they probably said, this says a lot about Trudeau. I don't agree with that, to be quite honest with you, because although there are things that you can say about Trudeau, Poilievre is a bit newer of a case. He's only been the CPC leader for a year or two now, and despite the fact that he's only been the CPC leader for a year or two now, the amount of damage that he has done to his party's reputation and integrity is just unmatched. The party has never seen something like this, ever. And they've done some embarrassing things in the past, but this just tops it. And that's just the thing. This is politics. But this kind of thing is everything I dislike about politics, because people dislike Poilievre, and they're not going to vote for someone who they think will do a better job. They're going to vote for someone purely because he's not Poilievre. And Poilievre, by deciding to alienate members of the LGBTQ community, he has basically ensured that everyone who is a trans ally or is a member of the LGBTQ community themselves, he has ensured that they are going to vote for anyone but him. And while that is completely justified in my opinion, I also believe wholeheartedly that voting for Trudeau to keep a transphobic person like Poilievre out of power, I believe that that is wholeheartedly the wrong call. And yes, I'm bringing Justin Trudeau's allyship into question right now, and I don't think I'm unjustified in doing so. In 2015, during the federal election that year, Justin Trudeau promised to fully get rid of the blood ban. For those who don't know, gay and bisexual men had a ban on donating blood in Canada, under the false pretense that they spread STDs. 2015 came and went, he kinda just dropped it after that. The blood ban being lifted at all took until November 2021, and it had nothing to do with Trudeau. It was because of the fact that Conservative Party MP Rob Moore held a motion in Parliament to get the blood ban lifted, and Parliament unanimously voted in favor of it. Will Adams here. I made an error here. Rob Moore was not the blood ban. Rob Moore was conversion therapy. The blood ban was Health Canada. Hope you're enjoying the show. At the end of the day, though, this is only a problem because of the fact that our electoral system does not work in a way that is fair. The popular vote is not taken into consideration, And that alone is a big problem. First past the post is an outdated system. And so long as it stands, we're going to have situations like this continue again and again and again and again. And with that being said, I'd like to thank you for tuning in to this episode of Orange Wave. As always, I am your host, Will Adams, and I figured I would just make a quick episode. That's something I haven't done in quite some time. There's been a lot going on in March, and I figured that it was a good idea to give people something to think about. So until next time, take it easy.